Good morning, good day, and good evening to everybody. I know everybody's in different time zones. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Michelle Awando. I am the Assistant Director for International Undergraduate Admissions. And today I am joined by Charter Morris, who's the Director of ISSS. And today's session is mostly towards students that have been admitted and they are planning or thinking to come and join us on campus in the fall, in August. So that the information today will mostly cover pre-arrival, arrival, orientation session, housing information. And if you do have questions on admission and procedure, you can email me at a later time. And if we do have time at the end, we can discuss some of that. If you do have questions during the session, please put them in the chat box and we'll try to answer them as we go along. If we don't get to them, we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. But for now, thank you for joining us, and I'm gonna give it over to Charter.
Good morning, everybody. So as Michelle said, I'm Charter Morris. I'm Director of International Student and Scholar Services here. Our office is responsible for visa support, for programming for international students, faculty, researchers, staff, and their dependents. So we serve about 1,100 international students, and so 1,100 international students from about 90 countries worldwide. And then we have about, actually, we just went up quite a bit in the last year with our faculty and researchers. We're a little over 400 international faculty and researchers, and they represent about 45 countries from around the world. So we serve about 1,500 people directly, and then we have about, a few hundred dependent spouses and children who join them. So we're an all-inclusive department, and we do a lot of activities and functions throughout the year. But our primary purpose here is also to just provide that visa support to answer those types of questions. Today, I wanted to share with you just some reminders as we get the school year started off. We are literally less than 1 month away from the start of classes. August 23rd is when classes start. So here on campus, it's still a little quiet. The students have not arrived yet, but they will arrive very soon. And so it's going to be a very exciting time of year. So what I was going to do, I'm going to share screen here, and hopefully it pops up and everybody can see this. Are you able to see it okay, Michelle? Okay, good. So what I'm going to do here is to share some basics, just about some reminders and things to be aware of as you make the preparations for your long journey to the US. And this can be helpful for some of you who maybe are admitted for spring and aren't showing up next month, but are starting to think about this. So just a quick overview. My office is located in B.B. Comer Hall. Michelle's office is also located in B.B. Comer Hall. We're on different floors of the building, but we're right next to each other, which is wonderful. If you ever need to visit us, we're in room 105 of B.B. Comer Hall, which is very close to the main student center and the student services building. You probably have already found our website, but if you ever need to, it's international.ua.edu. And then, of course, if you need to communicate with us at all, we are open Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. until 4:45 p.m. I have lived abroad, and I know that every country has its different kind of operating hours. The country where I worked Monday through Saturday. So it was a 6-day work week, but here we have a Monday through Friday work week. So now moving forward, I just want to kind of go over some other things. Deadlines, we've actually passed our main deadline for the fall semester. July 14th was our cutoff date to process any I-20 requests. So if you had missed that July 14th date to submit your documents for the fall semester, unfortunately, we're not able to process those anymore. The exception being is if you are a transfer student coming from another university here in the US and already on a student visa, transfers can happen right up until the start of school, August 23rd, so not a problem there. So you can ignore that deadline if you're a transfer student. If you've already got a valid US visa in your passport, an F1 student visa or a J1 student visa, that you don't have to go to the embassy to get renewed or anything like that, we can still accept last minute applications for those. But that is assuming that you've already been admitted and everything else is in place. So we look at those case by case. But for students who are applying for their visas outside of the US right now, unfortunately for fall, unless you've already received your I-20 or unless you've met that July 14th deadline for submitting all your documents, we can't process those anymore. What we're looking at right now is for spring 2024, we're processing I-20s right now. And the deadline for that is December 8th. So that is, still several months away, and that is for a January 10th start date. So, for those of you who have been admitted for spring, or those of you who might be looking at deferrals, just be aware of that being our next deadline for getting updated requests in to process documents. We try to get them out as quickly as we can. Besides undergraduate admissions, we have graduate admissions and law schools. So there's a lot of applications that flow through our office. And also keeping in mind that December is a month where we have a long holiday break. So we really need to have everything in by that date. So moving past that, really what I wanted to touch on isn't about deadlines or what to do to get your I-20 or how to get your visa. My assumption is everybody here who has applied for fall and is in possession of an I-20 has already done their visa interview or will be doing their visa interview soon. We do have tips on the interview process, things to keep in mind during that on our webpage, where you find out how to get your I-20 and get a visa. It has some great tips there that you can review if you have not done your interview yet. And I do suggest you review that. But assuming everybody has been successful, which I'm hoping they have, what you need to do is now start preparing to make your travels. One of the things that we get asked a lot is, how soon can I arrive? Well, for F1 and J1 students, you can arrive up to 30 days before the listed report date on your I-20 or your DS 2019. So for those of you who were admitted for fall semester, we're within that 30-day window right now. July 17th was the earliest that you could enter the US for our August 16th reporting date. And so that was last week, last Monday. And so if you are in possession of a valid visa and you have a valid I-20 or DS 2019 for an August 16th start date, you are able to enter the US as early as now. Now, with that being said, I do always want to caution, early arrivals have sometimes difficulties finding temporary accommodations, until the start of the classes or until they're able to move into their dorms or into their apartments. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, one other thing, and I'm hoping to share another message out to those who have been admitted and will be arriving in the fall semester, what to pack. Consider the fact that it is very warm in Alabama. Our first several months are going to be very hot here. It's still very much summer in the months of August and even September. And then it starts to cool off a little bit in October. But in the South, in the US, the weather is not very bad in the winter. We very rarely get below freezing. We do get below freezing, but snow is a very rare event. It's once every few years we might get snow, and it only lasts for a few minutes. So keeping that in mind, you may not want to pack big, heavy winter wear that takes up a lot of space in your luggage. You may want to consider just, bringing jackets. I usually survive the winter with a jacket or planning to purchase those items here. The other thing that I would say is, keep in mind that there are other items that you might want to bring that you're not thinking about now. So like my wife, we lived abroad, and my wife is originally from Central Asia. Every time we visit, the thing that we make sure we make room for is spices. There are like seasonings that we just can't get here. They're food items for national dishes that we can't prepare without them. And so we make sure to pack those. Sometimes there's cookware that we need that just is not available very easily here in the US. And so if you're thinking about that, you might want to do a little bit of Googling to see whether or not these things are available in the US. But if you are likely to miss some of your home cooking, you may want to pack that. But you may also want to check to see if it's live food like vegetables and fruits, things like that. Just be aware that importing those is usually not allowed. But spices and seasonings, that's always perfectly fine. So just go and check the Customs and Border Protection website for what you are allowed to bring into the US with you. But that would be one recommendation. My other recommendation for packing as you are preparing for the long trip is bring any national specific clothing. You would be surprised. This comes up a lot, but we have a lot of events throughout the year that are national specific, that celebrate holidays. And once you get here, it might be really difficult to find that type of clothing or to fashion that kind of clothing out of local goods. So just be aware of that. But generally speaking, things like electronics and other items, of course, if you already own something, bring it with you, but you're going to find computers are cheaper here. Electronics in general are cheaper here. A lot of household items are fairly inexpensive here. You can find them very easily at Walmart and Target and other major retailers here. So those things you may want to leave at home since they're very bulky, and they tend to be. But don't forget the things that are specific to your home culture, the things that you're going to miss the most when you get here. Getting to Tuscaloosa, a lot of folks will always wonder, what's the best way to get here? I have information here. Of course, the airport closest to us is in Birmingham, Alabama. Birmingham is the largest city in the state of Alabama. It's about 1 hour drive east of us. And so it's not very far away by car, but it does require some sort of shuttle transportation. There are multiple shuttle services that you can find on our transportation section of our arrival page. The costs are between $60 and maybe $100, $120, depending on the service. There are 3 primary shuttle providers that are operating out of Birmingham to Tuscaloosa, and you can usually schedule everything in advance. We will have a couple of shuttle services. We sent this out in a communication earlier this month. We'll put a reminder. We will have 2 shuttles that we're running out of our office to pick up people on Sunday, August 20th and Monday, August 21st. The thing that you need to be aware of is that we're very limited on space. We've actually we're getting quite full on the Sunday run right now. The Monday run is still open, but we anticipate that's going to fill up very quickly. This is something that our office does. We rent vehicles. Several of the staff, including myself, run those vehicles to go pick up students from the airport. But it is something that we do really closer to the start of the school year, and it may not quite coincide with your plans for your travels. So just be aware of that. But these shuttle services are actually fairly affordable, considering, Groom is one of the more popular shuttle services. They run shuttles every hour, basically. And they're very affordable. They're under $60 if you book in advance. So you might want to look to that. Once you get here, if you arrive too early for housing move-in, you may have to find temporary housing. The temporary housing options, really and truly, you have your hotels, Airbnbs and Verbos, like the short-term rentals that you could do online. Those tend to be a little bit more expensive. There are some low-cost hotels in the area. Unfortunately, we don't have temporary housing accommodations on campus for anyone. It may be possible to arrange early move-in, though, if you are living on campus. So keep that in mind. So if you have already confirmed your housing on campus and you will live in a dorm on campus or one of the apartments on campus, early move-in is possible, usually with a small fee. Sometimes they'll waive that fee depending on when you're arriving. So because we tell our students to arrive as early as August 16th, they will not charge you for early move-in if you're coming in, up to, I believe, August 15th is the earliest move-in date. I will double check that, but anything earlier than that would require permission to move in early from housing. And I think they charge a small prorated fee to cover the expenses for your housing for that period of time. I mentioned that it's only for those who will be living on campus and have already secured on-campus housing, because we are at like maximum capacity. When I say we are at maximum capacity, we have now rented out 2 apartment complexes near campus to deal with overflow freshman housing. And even then, we still have a wait list after having rented out 2 full apartment complexes for the overflow housing. This is our largest freshman class we've ever seen, and it is on-campus housing. If it has not been secured, is really impossible at this stage. So just be aware of that. There are off-campus housing options, of course, still quite available, but on-campus housing is a real challenge right now. It's been difficult for many months because of the large incoming class. But temporary housing is here for off-campus until you're able to move into your housing if you arrive very early. The next things to kind of think about: international orientation. So in the past, years ago, international orientation would have taken place on August 16th. That would have been your orientation day. That's why we have that report date there. And you would have done that in person, and you would have been there with hundreds of other new international students and meeting all of our staff and everything. And of course, COVID changed the way we handle that. We've shifted to an online model where we have all of the same information. It's already there in recordings, and you can go ahead and under our future and new students section in the orientation area, you can go ahead and access all of this information right now. So feel free to start looking at that. I have PDFs of all the handouts. I have recordings there, both YouTube and through Panopto. There are built into the website there that you can kind of go through at your own pace. It's worth reviewing that. We have the orientation manual there. All of it's there. It's a self-guided thing. Really what you need to do to complete the orientation is review the cultural adjustment and health resources, the academic success and campus life, and complete the immigration section. That's the most important for me, is the immigration section video. That covers all of the basics about maintaining your visa status as an international student. In fact, to complete the orientation and be considered done, you have to complete the immigration quiz that's attached to that. And you have to get 100% on the quiz. The good news is you can retake the quiz after you've taken the video. It's not a very long video. It's maybe 30, 35 minutes or so, but very truly, it covers everything about your immigration status, from what is considered full-time study to what is allowed for employment, and how to handle situations like transfers or leaves of absence. So please review that information. That is critical for us. But you can do that on your own, at your own pace. You can actually do it now if you would like. Now, after your arrival to the US, you're going to complete a check-in process for us. Check-in is all online. If you're having difficulty with it, you can come to our office in person. We can help you. But basically what we need you to do, and you'll get this information, you probably already received this, is you're going to complete a contact information sheet, which has your local address information and emergency contacts on it. You're going to complete an acknowledgement of your responsibilities. That's just a form that says that you understand that you have to, maintain your visa status through full-time enrollment and not work without permission. You'll upload copies of your main passport information page, your F1 visa or your J1 visa, your signed I-20 or your signed DS 2019. So the one that we sent you, you'll upload the signed version of that where you have actually signed it. And then you'll access your I-94 record through the CBP website. That can only be accessed after you've arrived. I don't recommend anybody uploading these documents even partially right now because it crowds our portal. So when if you can imagine, there are what, 5, 6 different documents that you're uploading. You and 300 other people are uploading 6 documents each. So 6 times 300 is 1,800 documents that are in a portal and a queue for us to review. So if you submit partial documents and you're waiting until you get to the US to do the I-94 upload, well, we might miss that and it may be taken out of queue. So what we ask is wait until you're in the US, do all of them at the same time and upload them all as one bundle of document uploads. But that portal works just like the portal you use to request your I-20. So it's a very similar portal function. You just kind of do a drop-down menu, select the document type, attach that document type, click upload, and then you go through one by one until you're done with those. That check-in information is also on our orientation page, so it's very easy to find. Now, the other thing to be aware of is Bama Bound. Now, some of you, if you're already in the US, you may have done Bama Bound already. Bama Bound is the general undergraduate orientation that all first year and transfer students do as undergrads. This is for Americans, this is for international students. This year we have had probably about 15 to 18 Bama Bound sessions already, each one bringing about 500 students. It has been a very busy summer. There are 3 Bama Bound sessions remaining, I believe. Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you know if it's 2 or 3 in that last week before classes?
I'm not sure on the exact amount. I know they have one-day sessions at close to the end.
Yes.
Towards the beginning of classes.
So if I am not mistaken, the Bama Bound, the last session that you can possibly attend would be that Friday before classes. So that Friday would be Friday, August 18th.
18th, yes.
And so for those of you who will be arriving after that last session, what you need to understand is during Bama Bound, you're going through all the basics. You're going through advising, you're going through registration for your classes, you're going through tours of campus and meetings with your departments. You are going through information about health and safety and wellness and everything that you can find. It's a full day to day and a half long program. They condense it to a one-day program towards the end of the summer for the last arrivals. If you miss this, what you'll need to do as a first-year student is to go to the orientation office because they will have had a hold on your account to prevent you from registering until they can clear you. And what they'll do is they'll clear you. If you missed all of them, there's nothing that can be done at that point. They'll give you the information they can about late registration and about late advising, and then they'll clear your holds. So if you arrive after that August 18th Bama Bound session, that last session prior to the start of classes, what I would recommend is reach out to the orientation office and work with them about your next steps. I'm sorry, Michelle.
If I can say something, just email orientation@ua.edu if you know you're going to miss the last 2 sessions, the 17th and 18th session. Just to give them a heads up and for them to let you know what that process is for late arrivals and how you need to, because once you get to campus, if you're very close to the start of the classes, it's going to be a lot. So you should have some notice of what's going to happen and who you need to see, because most likely you'll see your academic advisors on your own. So if you know in advance, please let them know as well.
And they can sometimes get you connected with your advisors, at least by email, so that you can kind of do some of the advising via email until you're able to see them in person. I know that, engineering often is able to do things like that. I don't know about business and some of the other colleges. It really kind of depends on the advisors that you're working with. But Now, beyond that, the last thing that I wanted to share is when you get here is going to be the busiest few weeks of your life. There's so much to do. I mean, right now you're thinking of the logistics of just setting foot on US soil and going through immigration. And then you get to campus and then you move in and then you know, furnish your room and you get the things that you need and you get your schedule confirmed and you go around campus and you find out where your classes will be so that you know how to navigate campus. But it is going to be filled with lots of events. So we do something called the Weeks of Welcome. This is 2 weeks at the start of the school year, and there are literally dozens of events every single day. For the international students, we will hold a big welcome event on Friday, August 25th. So this is 2 days after the start of classes. At 2 p.m. in our offices here in BB Comer. We'll have plenty of refreshments and snacks and things like that. You'll get a chance to meet other international students who are new to UA. You'll get to meet returning international students. We have a ton of resource tables. We've got like 9 or 10 different groups that will have tables on campus to answer questions that you might have. And this includes like the University Police Department will be there to give you information about health and safety. We'll have off-campus housing. We're going to have folks from Student Care and Wellbeing and the Career Center and the co-op office. Like, it's going to be a very helpful session. You'll get a lot of information right there, and but you'll also get just a chance to meet everybody and to meet me in person and meet the rest of the staff. So anyway, put that on your calendar, mark it as something to plan for. We are very much looking forward to it. And with that, I'm not going to tell you about like the million of other things that we've got planned for the semester because it's way too much information. But I thought we could just open it up to any questions that folks have got. I know I have not been able to look at the chat with my other screen open, so I'm going to close out and see if I can help answer any of those questions.
There is one question on health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
For students that arrive here early in the month, with starter classes coming in on the 23rd, and within that period, are they covered by health insurance? How does that work?
Absolutely. So our health insurance policy runs from August 1st until December 31st for the fall semester. And then it runs January 1st through July 31st for the summer and spring. And so one of the things that you'll notice with the health insurance is the way it bills is the smaller bill for your insurance will be during the fall semester because it only covers 5 months, but it does cover August 1st forward. So if you arrive in August, you will already have your health insurance. Now, the thing is, accessing the health insurance policy information, you'll be able to do that after you've registered for classes and after you have confirmed your schedule. That should all be accessible for you after you've done that. But I can assure you, you're already covered by that insurance just as soon as you have registered for classes, and it backdates to August 1. So I'm going to drop a link to the health insurance page so that you have that with you, and hopefully you'll be able to begin accessing that information before your arrival. So I've got one just general insurance and medical care page that's on our website. Now, the insurance is not run through the university or run through my office, I'm sorry. It is through the health center, and they work with an external insurance agency to do the insurance. And the health center's page is here. I just dropped it in the chat, and it talks about the policy, and it has a link there to the UHCSR website where you can access your policy information and everything else. So all of that information is there, and you are able to access it now.
Okay. One thing that I wanted to mention was final high school transcripts, because we do have to have those on file. It will not prevent you from registering fall courses, but if we do not have them on file prior to spring 24 registration, you'll have a hold on your account. So we recommend that you submit your final high school transcripts as soon as possible. If you don't know if those have been submitted, you can reach out to me directly and I can check your record and I'll let you know. The way for final high school transcripts, we do need official transcripts. So there are several ways we can do this. You can have your high school counselor or a school official from your country send it directly to email to us, and I'll put the email in the chat box in a minute. It does have to come from a school email address, so Gmail, Yahoo, whatever else, personal type of email. We don't consider those official, so they have to be from a school generated email address. If your school doesn't have that, and I know that's the case in some instances, you can have your school put your transcripts in an envelope, seal it, stamp it, and just bring that to me, to our office in person when you come to campus. It doesn't have to be the first thing you do on campus, because I know it's a lot to do and you may get overwhelmed, but next week or the second week of classes, you can drop by our office and bring it over. Just don't open the envelope. It has to be sealed and stamped in order for us to consider it official. Or you can have the school mail it directly to our office. And if you need the mailing address, just send me an email. I can send that via email to you. Yes, an attested copy will work as long as it's attested by the school, and then they have to put it again in the sealed envelope, and you bring the envelope unopened to our office. We do know that some countries issue one copy only, and that is for the rest of your life, your official high school transcript, and we can work with you on that. Just keep in mind, we do not give them back. So if you do need several attested copies, you should do it at that point, but we can return your high school transcripts to you. And if your school can do parchment or a transcript delivery service, we will accept those as well. Depends on the school. I know some international schools don't have that capacity, so we will work with you. If you're from a country that we can verify those results online, I know India does that with the CBSE board exams, the West African with their WIAC results, we verify those online. If we've already verified those, they are considered final high school transcripts and you don't have to submit them. Again, if you don't know if we have them, just email me and I can check it and I'll let you know. And I'm going to put in the email. You can send any questions on final transcripts or give this email address to your counselor so they can communicate with us.
And separately, I know we did share this, but we have a lot of student organizations who are here and ready to welcome you. You can find your student organizations. I'm dropping this in the chat on the international.ua.edu page under the programs at the far right on the top ribbon. You'll see student organizations is the first listed link there. And so, some of the very active student organizations that we have, like the African Students Association, the Association of Chinese Students and Scholars, the Bangladeshi Students Association, and the Indian Students Association of Tuscaloosa, the International Students Association. I'm the advisor to that group, represents everybody. The Iranian Students Association, the Korean Students Association, Nepalese Student Association, Saudi Students Association, South Asian Culture Club, the Turkish Student Association, the Vietnamese Students and Scholar Association. These are most of the national groups. There are also a lot of clubs, language clubs. So let's say you're from Ghana, but you're a French speaker. We have a French club. If you studied Italian, you can go join the Italian club. If you speak a little Arabic, you can join the Arabic Culture Club. Like, these are more of our modern languages clubs that are just for people who are enthusiastic about languages. They often do movie nights, and they, have meetings, and it's just a good chance to just practice your language. And so that it's not exclusive to any one nationality. It's more about the language and culture. Most of the national organizations are also likewise very open to anybody who just celebrates the cultures and countries represented there. So it's a very welcoming group. The reason I share this link is if you happen to be in one of those groups, or if you happen to identify with one of those groups, I would recommend reaching out to them in advance of your arrival. Let them know, hey, I'm coming. Like, when's your first activities? Like, what have you got going on? A lot of them are very active. There's a membership interest form for the African Students Association. Likewise, there's a membership interest form that the Indian Student Association has got set up, and you can let them know a little bit more about you before you arrive, so they can kind of connect you with others within the group. The fact that we have these larger populations of students, I think, helps a lot with the adjustment process, especially and connecting with others here in the community. So and they can often tell you a little bit more from a very realistic perspective of, like, if you're asking what's available, what should I bring, what should I pack, they can be a lot more direct, like, hey, forget this, don't pack that, there's tons of this stuff here, like, don't worry about that, bring this is the thing that you are going to have the hardest time finding. And I think that is extremely helpful. So
there was a question that was sent to me directly, but I think everybody can benefit from it, about payment and the student bills being out right now. I put a link regarding the payment methods for your student bill. You can set up a payment plan, and there's information on that website how you can do that. You will get to hear from student accounts and financial aid during your orientation session, so they will talk to you about that. At this point, if you're not registered for classes, there shouldn't be a student bill. Is that correct, Char?
that is correct. There should be no student bill. The only possibility I could see for a student bill that's hanging out there, if you're not registered for classes, is if somehow one of the fees was billed back to your student account, like for a deposit or something like that. But that is extremely rare. So without registration, there should be no fees unless you registered and then dropped classes. There might be still a fee hanging out there associated for the prior registration.
And all the payments, you can do those through your MyBama account. When you get an email from the university regarding your student bill, they'll usually provide a link where you can go and kind of see the charges, and you can pay your bill. Student accounts always allows for walk-ins. So if you do have questions after your orientation session about your bill, you can walk to their office, which is usually just across the student center, and you can talk to them and see your charges. If you have questions on it, they can help you with that. If the payment plan says that the third payment plan opens August 1st. So you can always reach out to them via email, studentaccounts@ua.edu, and you can ask them, tell them you're an international student and how you can set up that plan. They're more than happy to help you. Just keep in mind, as we get closer to beginning of classes, every office on campus will get a increase in volume from students, calls, emails, all of that. So please allow them some time to respond. If you keep sending emails, they're just going to get bogged down, and it makes it harder for them to know who they answered. The offices have multiple staff in the office, so you don't want to have your emails going through 4 or 5 different people. So just give them 24, 48 hours, give them a chance to get to your email and answer. And then there was a question on the student bill for meal plan and housing. Char, do you know any information on that?
So there's about $5,000 student bill for meal plan and housing. So if you registered for housing, typically students, so all undergraduate students will be billed $350 for dining dollars. That's not a meal plan. It's a fee charged to all undergraduate students get charged $350 for dining dollars. So that'll be a standard semesterly charge. That just goes, it's flexible dollars that you can use to purchase meals on campus or to purchase, drinks at the vending machines, whatever you would like to do. If you don't use that money, that account balance can be refunded to you at the end of the year. But it is a standard one. Housing is, depending on where you're living, between $3,000 and $5,000 a semester and at the dorms. And so just depending on the type of housing that you're in. And then meal plans typically are about $2,000 for a full meal plan. So that's the unlimited meal plan. And for those living on campus, generally, I believe they're automatically enrolled into that unlimited meal plan on campus. And so that's probably what you're seeing because of the variety of meal plans and because of the variety of housing options. It's hard to say for sure exactly what you've been billed because it is pretty specific to the things that you've registered for. But that is most likely what you're looking at there. And so, but yes, do anticipate you're going to have a fairly large upfront bill. And that's, I think, one of the challenges for living on campus is while off campus, your groceries and your rent are monthly. You pay for your groceries, as you go to the grocery store, you pay for your rent, at the first of each month. With housing and meal plans on campus, the bill is for the entirety of the semester. It covers you for the whole semester, but then of course the bill is due at the beginning of the semester, unless you set up one of those payment plans to spread it out over 2 to 3 payments. So just be aware of that. But any questions you have about the student bill, the student accounts office is actually very responsive to their emails. They do get a high volume right now. They're probably a little slower than usual just because you and 40,000 other people have questions about their student bill. But you can take a look at that. You can inquire with them. You can also inquire directly with Bama Dining and the Bama Housing offices if you have any questions about your specific place. So for the person who asked the question, when do you receive the bill for meal plan and housing? As soon as you have, you should receive it as soon as you have secured housing and chosen your meal plan. It should bill to your student account. Then there will also be, of course, your tuition and the fees related to classes will bill to your account when you have registered for classes. If you have not set up housing and your meal plan yet, you may want to look at that. I don't know if you applied for housing early before their May 1st cutoff, but it's as I said earlier, the availability of on-campus housing right now is pretty much non-existent. You would have to have already applied for housing. So you may want to get in touch with them. And I believe the email is just housing@ua.edu. It's quite easy. So let me drop a few links in the chat. Anyway, while I'm doing that, if you want to say anything more to that, Michelle?
I think there was a question on if there's a packing list for international students somewhere. Is that on your website?
That's a good question. I used to have it on our website, and when we migrated to the newer version of our website, it looks like it went away. I was just asked about this and found an old packing list, and I need to just kind of clean it up a little bit, but I'll share that out with incoming students to say, hey, here's some reminders. Some things that I often will recommend, besides, country-specific clothes or cultural items that you might want to bring, any kind of things that you would want for cooking. home dishes would be honestly medications. That is, but look to see how much medication you're allowed to bring in and what types of medication. But I have had too many students who are on, like, say, some sort of medication for anxiety or other health issues that require no gaps in their dosage, and they only bring enough to survive for like a week. And they don't realize here in the US, to get a prescription renewed, you have to go through a US doctor. And so you can't just say, I used to have this medicine back home and they just give you the medicine here. You have to go through a US doctor for most medicines, especially if it's controlled in any way. So you want to bring up to 3 months of medication with you in order to have enough to get you by until you can get a doctor's appointment at the Student Health Center and get a new prescription locally. I had 2 students from the UK last year who just quit taking their medicine because they only brought enough to last the first few days. And this was actually despite the fact that we told them to bring their medication, because that group was part of an orientation where we specifically told that group, hey, make sure to bring plenty of meds with you if you're on any prescriptions. So that is one thing I would really strongly emphasize. Look at prescriptions, look at what you need. Most stuff you can get over the counter here for like headaches and stomach pains and like allergies and real basic stuff. But if you have anything for any type of serious condition, you want to make sure to prepare for that. It's important to bring it with you. But we do have a packing sheet. I'm going to get that shared out. I'll send it out as a blast in the next reminder email that I'm going to have going out here shortly to incoming students. So be on the lookout for that. And once I've got it uploaded to the website, Michelle, I can share that out with you too.
Okay. Yeah, just keep in mind that the US differs regarding prescription medication. I know coming from Europe, some of the medication that I was able to buy from a pharmacy over the counter, here you have to have a doctor's prescription. So even if you think it may be just easy to obtain, if it's not just headache medication or stuff like that, or even allergy medication, some of it here you have to have a doctor's prescription for it. So please keep that in mind if that's applicable to you. That's the laws and differ here, especially when it comes to prescription drugs. One other question I had in the chat chart is about opening a bank account. What's needed and how students need to go about doing that if they want to do it when they get here?
So bank accounts are fairly easy to set up here. The primary thing that you would need is you'll need a mailing address of some kind or a physical address that you can provide. If you live on campus, your mailing address, you'll be given a box code that will be your mailbox and where you can receive mail at the Student Center's mail services. And of course, you'll have a physical address with your dorm address, so that's not an issue. If you live off campus, you'll have your apartment where you can receive mail. But you will go to any one of the banks in the nearby area, and typically you'll take your passport and your immigration documents, your address information, a local phone number if you have a phone number set up. They'll need an email account, but they'll need a couple of forms of ID. Generally, your 2 forms of ID will be your passport, your visa, your action card, which is now on your phone. Those will be your forms of ID. There's nothing special that you need other than those items just to establish your identity. If you have a social security number, you'll provide that. If you don't have a social security number, most of the banks can set up an account without a social security number. It's not an issue there. However, when you do get a social security number, you would want to provide that to your bank to make sure that they update your account. That's a big question that we get a lot, is how do I get a social security number? For international students, you have to have a job on campus to be able to then apply for a social security number. Now, for banks, none of them, like I said, require anything special with one exception. That exception is the Alabama Credit Union here on campus. They are located in the main student center. It's very popular among our students, faculty, and staff to bank at the Alabama Credit Union because it's right here. You're already on campus. It's easy to get to. The main thing is they do require a letter from our office confirming that you hold valid visa status and that you're a student here and you're able to open up an account. So you'll need to request a letter from our office. So you'll find that you have to get validation letters for 3 things: Alabama Credit Union accounts. None of the other banks require this, but only Alabama Credit Union. You'll have to get a validation letter from our office to get a social security card because we're validating that you have an on-campus job. And you'll need to get a validation letter if you ever apply for a driver's license or state ID through the Department of Motor Vehicles here. And so those 3 things require authorization letters or validation letters through our office as an international student. So just keep that in mind. But we have all that information on our website. If you ever have questions about like, what's my first step, what's my next step, just email us at international.edu at ua.edu. Sorry, not the website, but the email address is international@ua.edu. You can email us and we can give you, next steps for setting up a bank account, for getting your social security card. I would recommend, do that after arrival. Right now, it's probably too much information to try to keep track of. But once you get here, we go over this multiple times. That orientation page that I shared with you earlier has a lot of this information. So for the future new students, I have our arrival page here, which has just checklists getting here. So arrival page is here, and then the other page that I shared with you was about our international orientation and check-in, and it goes over first steps, cultural adjustment, and includes information about all the things that you need for your adjustment. But the first steps, I would really strongly recommend looking at that. You can access that first step section here, and that first steps, it goes over everything, step 1, step 2, all the way through for how to complete your immigration check-in. So it's all the stuff about completing the orientation, and then it goes through other first steps, which is housing and deposits and social security cards and driver's licenses and getting your bank account and all these things, the logistics of life here. That first steps video is probably the most helpful video outside of the immigration video that comes later in that page.
Okay, any other questions? Not seeing any new questions in the chat. Okay, well, if you do have questions, Char did share his office email, which is international@ua.edu. So anything with arrival, check-in, orientation, you can send it to his office. If you have questions on final high school transcripts, anything that is related to admissions in general, deferrals, if something happens and you can't make it here on August 20th, 23rd for beginning of classes, just send it to us, to my office at intladm@ua.edu, and we can help you from that point on. Yes, we will email a copy of the recording to everybody that's participated and registered. We are here to help you with the transition and getting on campus and make sure that everything goes smooth and you get into housing and you have a successful start of classes and a successful time at UA. So if you guys have questions, you know where to reach us. Thank you to Charter for the presentation and all the helpful advice. Thank you guys for attending. We are looking forward to seeing you on campus in August. Roll Tide, and we'll see you soon.
Roll Tide, y'all.
Bye.